Our story begins with some people facing a blizzard, until a man sees a woman, thinks it's impossible because it's an ice age glacier, and asks them to contact the arcane court immediately. Until the frozen girl asked if it had been 2,000 years, she thought she had been sleeping too much, and the men were incredulous to hear the woman speak. The man asks who she is, and she replies that she is an ancient goddess, but it doesn't matter to her. She just wanted him to bring her the best player of that era. We see a guy in a white helicopter saying that the game was on. It was the game of the gods, which god humanity was going to challenge that day. They had 3, and there had never been a challenge like that before. People from all over the world were streaming to see that historic moment happen. That city was called Ruin, the Sacramento City. The city is very busy, and everyone was talking about the big match. A young man was carrying his suitcase, thinking it had been 6 months, and he saw on a screen that there were 3 games of the gods. Then we see the moment of those games where the teams were defeated. The boy, seeing that all the teams have been defeated, realizes that he has to go. After all, he was one of the challengers. Until a guy recognizes Faye and points at him. When people hear the buzz, they start looking for him, but Faye quickly leaves. Then Faye arrives on the scene where he is quickly recognized. A bespectacled girl welcomes him and tells him she hasn't seen him for 6 months and asks if he's lost any weight. Faye says she's lost a little weight and asks what that means for the manager. The manager laughs and says that it seems the girl he had been looking for 6 months was actually someone else. And Faye says it again. And Faye says that the manager said she'd found a girl just like her. And Faye goes on to say that she was looking for a girl with very red hair. The manager asked if she was the girl who had taught him how to play in the past, but she said she had only heard rumors anyway. The manager needed to talk to him and asked him to go to the 17th floor. Faye asks what it's about. And the manager says it's about games between humans and gods. After all, it couldn't be about anything else. There's a girl the manager would like Faye to meet. It seems the girl told them to bring her the best player of that era, and it couldn't have been anyone other than Faye. Faye asks who she is, and the manager replies that she is a goddess. A year ago, a goddess in the shape of a girl was taken from a purgasoul. She was taken to the arcane court because it was the closest to where she was. She is a peculiar goddess. In the past, she had hidden during a game of catch with the humans. Only it seems that while she was hiding, she ended up dozing off and passing through the Ice Age. He took a nice 3,000-year freeze nap, but for Faye it wasn't really a nap. It looks like that goddess is the avatar of fire in dragon form. It was also said that she is a former goddess who has had her powers weakened. Faye doesn't understand much, but the manager says they can't make her angry. Within an hour, that city could disappear from the map and turn to ashes. Faye doesn't understand why they are dealing with such a dangerous goddess. The door opens and the manager tells them to get down to business, saying that she wants Faye to keep an eye on the goddess. Faye is shocked because she wanted him to watch over a goddess. Higher spiritual beings, known as gods, came down to Earth, and the humans didn't know why. They want to know why she's there. But if they don't find the mission, she could get angry. And then yes, they would have a problem. That's why the manager thought Faye was suitable for the job. In fact, he was the only boy. Faye asks if it was because of the suit that he didn't die. The manager affirms this, saying that the power of the gods was too great and could easily destroy humans. That's why they asked Faye, who had the arise, which doesn't die. And then she swipes the card to open the door. The manager goes on to say that the goddess herself chose him. So the manager needed him to put on an act, but asked him not to worry, as she wouldn't leave him alone. Faye enters the room and sees that she is a goddess who really loves games. He picks up some dice and throws them back on the table, guessing the number that will fall. But he shows the manager that it was just a trick. Then he sees the girl with the red hair and has a flashback. He stands there looking at her. And the girl with the red hair asks Miranda about that human. Miranda replied that he was the best player, just as she had asked. Since Faye's debut 3 years ago, he's won 3 games against the gods. He's a first-rate apostle. She introduced him by saying that his name was Faye, that he had been appointed supervisor, and that it was his first day in the job. And then Miranda asks Faye to greet the goddess called Leisha. Faye asks if she just looks alike. The manager asks him to wake up. Leisha asks if Faye has a problem. Manager Miranda says she's going back to work and tells them to introduce themselves and get to know each other better. She also asks Faye to do her best as a supervisor. When he goes to talk to Leisha, she is flying towards him. Leisha said that they would be starting at that very moment and told them to face each other in a game. Faye asks if they can't introduce themselves first. He would be the supervisor and would like to get to know her better. But the girl replies that they could get to know each other better by playing. Faye doesn't understand if this was a game of the gods or not. After all, they weren't even in the elements. Leisha asks what happened to him. Faye replies that it's nothing. Faye sees various cards with names, ages, hometowns, hobbies, and dreams. Leisha said she did it when she was bored. It's a memory game presentation. Faye finds the name very direct. The rules are the same as for a memory game with cards. But instead of taking the same numbers, you should take the theme of self-presentation. For example, if Leisha took the hometown pair, Faye would have to say where he came from. If I didn't get the pair, I didn't have to answer. Faye understands, so she starts sorting out the cards, asking him to answer truthfully whatever comes to mind. But Faye asks her to wait and asks if she could shuffle again. After all, she had put the cards up earlier to explain the rules to him. Leisha is amazed that he has memorized the position of the cards in such a short time and has followed the shuffle with his eyes. It was a habit of Faye's. He explains that in the past, a certain person trained him to death in games. Leisha says she liked him, especially the fact that he didn't cheat by memorizing all the cards and wanted to play fairly with a goddess. In that case, it's a waste to play this game on such a small table. She asks the cards to float and start spinning. This surprised Faye because they were moving in different orbits and at different speeds. Each card had a different orbit, so not even the goddess knew how they were moving. Faye realizes it's a 3D memory game. Faye thinks that when he turns over a letter, he never forgets, and neither does the goddess. So basically she imposed a rule so that the cards continually change places. The goddess also wanted to impose another original rule, the absolute one-shift rule. In a common memory game, when you get a pair, it's the turn of the one who got it again, but the god's wish is that this doesn't happen, and Faye understands. Faye thinks that this additional rule will be a lot of work, which means it's not just a memorization game. And then they finally start the game. From afar, the manager monitored everything through a small camera. The goddess makes the first move for Faye. So Faye chooses the two cards by pointing, and they go to him, giving his hometown and blood type. He didn't know that gods had blood. The goddess replies that it's hotter than lava. If a single drop falls, the whole building will melt. Faye says that everything has a limit, and the goddess tells him that if he wants to know more, he should get a blood type match. And now it was the goddess's turn. He finds the goddess stance a little complicated, and he asks if gods understand the concept of underwear. Leisha admits to Faye that she doesn't really understand. She says they wear clothes to cover their skin, but why put something on underneath? Faye embarrassedly says it's hard to concentrate. And the goddess says it's not nice that he can't concentrate on the game. And she decides the cards, which go to her when they are chosen, and they have given their hometown and name, in other words, no match. The goddess says they've already had 2 letters from their hometown, and wonders if Faye knows where they are. Faye answers the positions the cards were in, and thus gets the hometown pair. The goddess is surprised and responds by saying that she thinks most gods would say the same. She came from the elements. It's the place humans call the higher spiritual realm, the place where the gods live, but humans need to use a special portal to enter. Faye says she knew and used it until about 6 months ago. Meanwhile, manager Miranda was monitoring, saying that the gods are thirsty for games. The gods were bored and gave a rise to humans, so that humans could challenge them in games. Humans who receive the arise become apostles. Apostles can challenge gods to a battle of wisdom with superhuman or magical powers. All the games of the gods take place in elements, and as a reward for victory, the apostle will be able to use part of his arise in the real world. These powers are absolutely necessary for discovering unexplored lands, because 93% of the world has not yet been explored. The apostles only lose their right to play after 3 defeats. After 10 victories, humanity was given the task of completing the game, i.e., zeroing out. The apostles then receive the celebration, but they still don't know exactly what it is. No human had succeeded up to that point. Maybe Faye will. We then see Faye a little surprised as the goddess replies without hesitation. She confirms it because it's the rule of the game. Rules are not mere restrictions. And then it's her turn in the game. She picks the cards and gets the name pairs. Faye says her name is Faye Theophilus. She asks if he has a surname, but he doesn't have one. The game had really been made for presentations. It wasn't just a game of picking up cards. Even if Faye knows where they are, not picking some of them up could be the key to victory. This is a game of information in which you have to make choices every turn. Faye has gathered some information and knows where the cards he wants are. Now it's time to find out what she wants, and then comes her chance. There was nothing written on the face, so whoever picks it up can ask whatever they like. It's like a joker in an ordinary deck. It was exactly the card Faye wanted. And then Leisha asks what the real reason is for Faye trying to get close to her. She doesn't allow him to lie. Faye realizes at that moment that she is a genuine goddess and not an ex-goddess. And then he has a flashback of a girl with red hair. For Faye, if she has someone to play with, any game will be fun. He replies that they both had the same goal. While casually playing, they were both after the craziest pair, but it makes sense if he wanted those cards, the goddess wanted them too. Faye knew that a goddess could find out what Miranda wanted. But thanks to that, he played a pretty good game. And he tells Leisha that his goal is to keep an eye on her. Her eyes sparkle. Miranda worries about the city turning to ashes, and Faye replies that Miranda wanted to know who Leisha really was and her objectives. Leisha says she had already imagined it, but just wanted to confirm it. Faye answered sincerely and even played along. She thought he was a good human being. She liked him. If she didn't, she wouldn't have asked him. She wouldn't ask a question like that to someone she doesn't know. She says she'll call him Faye, and he can call her just Leisha. You don't have to be formal with her, you're best friends now. Faye doubts that it can be that close, and she confirms that it can. The game is not a memory game, unlike the original game. It's a game of information, and frankly Faye found the adjustment amusing. Leisha asks him what he would ask her if he got the blank cards, and he asks her why she doesn't go back to elements, and moreover, why she chose him, as there were much more intelligent apostles than him. Leisha said that he was the only newcomer to have 3 victories. Even in the last century very few had managed that, and she wanted to complete the game of the gods with her. Leisha went to Earth to play with humans, but she can't go from elements to Earth, only the other way around. Now she's no longer a goddess, and that was completely unintentional. It's all right for her. All she had to do was play the game of the gods. She'd win 10 times over, and then she could be a goddess again. Faye asks her if she knows what the celebration is, in this case the prize that humans win when they reset. And she says yes, the humans had an almost correct theory, in which the gods fulfilled a wish of the winner. But it wasn't just one wish, there could have been thousands, but no human being had ever made it. And so it was decided that they would play the game of the gods together. Faye asks what she intends to do, and then tired, he sees the divine gate. Faye and Leisha were in the diving center. Leisha couldn't wait any longer. She had waited a long time for someone like Faye. She took his hand and smiled. Faye was more confused than blind man in a firefight. The game was about to start, and they entered the gate. Then there's the gods' game of catch in the upper spiritual realm.